It was shameful that in 2024 an organisation does not support its candidate to represent Mauritius on an international platform. Me and my family, we had to work really hard to invest into my preparation, and it was a total of 1 million rupees or 1.5 million rupees.
What?
I didn't expect that it would take up like 2.5 years of my life, and it completely, I would say, changed my life in a good way, in a not so good way, but it definitely changed the trajectory of my life. There is a lack of transparency. When you win the title of Miss Mauritius, you get nothing. Anyone who knows pageantry knows that we don't do it for money. But when an organisation has been around for over 50 years, you expect support. I had to knock on doors for sponsorships. I'm really desperate. I really need money. What's worse is that it extended to things like attempts of control, belittling me or bullying me or threatening me that I wouldn't be able to go to the competition if I didn't do X, Y, and Z. I was getting threats that I wouldn't go to Miss World in the week leading up to Miss World. It is 2024, and a girl shouldn't be made to feel this way and controlled in this way and silenced in this way.
Liza Gundowry,
Hello.
welcome to the podcast. We've been aiming to record this for the past, 8 months.
Yeah.
You're finally here in the studio. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
I'm glad. Let's start with your journey. Obviously, people know you from the Miss Mauritius and Miss World contests, but I'm really keen to go back to what life was before the whole pageantry journey, because I feel that there's so much about you, about the contest, your achievements. It's all out there in the public domain, but we haven't really heard about Liza when she was a child, when she was a teenager growing up. And I know you've lived in the UK, but you've also had some time in Mauritius. So take us back.
So my name is Liza. I'm 27 now. I was born and raised in Mauritius. Yes, I lived in Sainte-Croix, which is a suburb of Port-Louis, and I have lived in the UK for many years. My academic background is in international relations and conflict resolutions, and I ended up a beauty queen. So I'm the Miss Mauritius 2022-2023, this year's Miss World Mauritius. And I represented Mauritius earlier this year in India at Miss World and did pretty well for myself. But apart from pageantry, it's not always been my life. It actually came into my life very unexpectedly. I was doing an internship in 2020 at Radio Plus, and I was invited to a press conference, and there I met the Miss World organization, who was like doing their tour, how they came.
Oh, right. Okay.
They were doing the same thing in 2020, and they were doing their world tour, and I was just asking questions because I knew nothing about anything to do with pageantry. I didn't even know the then Miss World, Tony Ann Singh, didn't know anything about the contest, so I was just asking lots of questions, and I kind of got scouted. I was just noticed, and the CEO of Miss World came to speak to me, and they just told me, you should really consider doing your national contest. And I had no idea. I was wearing camo jeans that day. I was wearing like a t-shirt, no makeup. I have the picture if you want to use it. And I was just not a girly girl at all. So it had never crossed my mind to do a pageant, and this kind of just happened. This was in 2020, so obviously we had COVID coming after. I came back to the UK. I did my master's from 2020 to 2021. And then after my master's, coincidentally, borders in Mauritius were reopening. I get the email kind of inviting contestants to do the Miss World, the Miss Mauritius contest. And I just thought, why not? Instead of going straight from university and going into a job, let me just do this thing for a while. And I didn't expect that it would take up like 2.5 years of my life. And it completely, I would say, changed my life in a good way, in a not so good way. But it definitely changed the trajectory of my life, because I was like, academics, job.
Right.
It was never in the plan.
Okay. There are a few things that you say there. So pageantry was something that you kind of stumbled across, or were you doing anything within that industry at all before?
I've always been tall and thin, so I used to get scouted for modelling from like when I was 16. But this was when I was, how old was I? Maybe like 22, 23.
Okay.
So it had been a long time since I did anything in terms of modelling. I let that go. I wasn't going to be a model. Like, I just wasn't really interested. I wasn't the girl to wear lots of makeup. I wasn't the girl to wear heels. I enjoyed looking nice, but I wasn't
You were not the most girly.
Exactly. So yeah, it wasn't an industry that I was in at all, and I had to learn how to wear heels and walk in heels. I remember I was in Oxford and like practicing in my accommodation. So yeah.
You were quite humble there at the beginning. I did pretty well at Miss World. For people listening to us and not knowing much about you, you were part of the top 12 at Miss World just recently, which is a huge achievement. And I have to say, as a Mauritian, we're a tiny island, and this is the second time in history that we've had a Mauritian placing among the top 12.
Yes. Shout out to Anne-Muriel Ravina and all the ladies who came before me. But Anne-Muriel Ravina was the only one to place in the top 12 before me. And actually, like coincidentally, she was the one who was there for me throughout this entire journey. And so it's really nice. It's like a full circle moment that us two, we kind of struggled together. Well, she struggled before me, and then when I was going through the challenges, she was like my rock that I would lean on. So big shout out to her, and she is so deserving, and I can see now why she got that ranking as well.
I love women supporting other women, and it's amazing as well that you taking the time to express your gratitude. That's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really wanted to get to, so from my perspective, I didn't know much about you, and I remember seeing, I think it was your introductory video that you had posted.
Yeah.
And my first impression, and I don't want to come across as superficial, but generally my first impression was she speaks so well. Obviously, you're pretty, you've got a beautiful face, but I think for me what really stood out was she expresses herself so confidently.
Yes.
And the fact that you spoke different languages, I think in that particular video, I might show this in the B-roll, but you went from speaking French, English to Spanish.
Yes. Oh, I wonder which one it was.
I can't...
I had one when I was...
started with you on the beach.
Yes, so that's when I was actually going for the Miss Mauritius title. And again, like I was filming myself at Grand Bay Beach.
Was that?
Selfie format. But I've always prided myself on my articulation because, I have like quite a strong academic background. I speak many languages. I studied languages at university. Obviously, being from Mauritius, I speak Creole, French. Moving here, speaking English. I've also studied Spanish and lived in Mexico for a while. So that actually really helped me for the Miss Mauritius title. And it's something that really helped me at Miss World because I would always be translating for the Francophone girls. And then because I would already be, at the mic or talking to the people, talking to the girls, they would be like, well, does anyone speak Spanish? And then I just put my hand up and be like, actually, I can translate for the Spanish girls as well, the Hispanic girls. So that's kind of one thing that got me noticed, actually. That's a good thing you mentioned that.
So going back to that particular video.
Yes.
So I saw you. I was like, okay, this is amazing. Like, I love, she's so strong. And I didn't think much about it because, as you said, I think the whole Miss Mauritius to the Miss World journey took about perhaps 2.5 years.
Yes.
So I didn't see much of you then. And then you went for Miss World.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the timeline at all. But I remember seeing you then. I was like, oh, okay, that's the girl I remember seeing back when you were competing for Miss Mauritius.
Aww.
And that particular year, shout out to Jess, Miss England at the time when you were competing for Miss World. Turns out you guys are really good friends. Yes. Also, happy birthday, Jess.
Happy birthday, Jess. I'm actually seeing her today.
Oh, yeah, say hello. Yes. It was her birthday yesterday. So I remember to sing that and I said, oh, well, it would be amazing if you guys get to meet each other at the contest. And then she's actually sent me a picture and she said, we took this to you.
Oh,
which was really cute. I mean, my little heart, I tell you.
Yeah.
But then you went for the whole thing, and I don't know if many people know this, but for me, I was like, okay, she's a really strong candidate. We really have good chances this year. But then in your stories, you, at the very beginning of the thing, or maybe throughout, you posted a few stories where you said you came out of it, or I'm sure there are different preliminary contests that take place, and you said you were not placing well yet, or you were not placing very high. We saw that, and then we don't get to see the whole process.
I know.
And then eventually it was just announced that Liza made it, or Miss Mauritius made it to the top 40 and then the top 12.
Yes.
What I really want to get to is when you compare your journey, when you're there among 100 plus countries where these different countries receive a lot more funding than Mauritius does as a small island.
Yeah.
It might be me, but I don't think we particularly provide a lot of funding to pageantry in general.
Yes.
You're doing it all on your own.
Yeah.
And there must have been moments where you felt like, I'm not placing as high as I should. I'm just on my own. Your family was perhaps not there with you.
My mum and my dad actually came to Mumbai in the end because I'm
In
very
the end.
lucky and I have amazing parents and they did everything that they could to be there. But I'm really proud that they were there because like a lot of, as you said, a lot of girls, they come with their teams. Some girls, they come with their agents and you're just getting your Air Mauritius flight, in economy class. You're just going there, like no one really knows who you are, what you're doing. So it is very intimidating. So I'll talk you through like how I was feeling.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, I think I never felt weaker because I was a smaller country. I didn't get enough funding, and we'll talk about that and support and talk about that after. But I always knew that I had the potential, and that's why I kind of persevered as Miss Mauritius and on this journey towards Miss World, because I knew that I had a potential in me. I knew I had a really important project I wanted to advocate for. So I never felt like any less than, and I never felt like a kind of imposter syndrome. And that's something that I really hope other Mauritian girls or Mauritian people, when we see the Olympics, when we see the Paralympics, shout out, we got a Paralympic medal the other day. I just never want any Mauritian to feel less than because of the country they come from. But it's true, like I wasn't placing. There's loads of preliminaries. We have the talent, the communication, sports, and I just wasn't, like I was doing my best at every step of the way. For some reason, I wasn't placing. And I was going to the hotel and crying to my parents on the phone. But like as soon as I would step out of that hotel room, no one had to know that. Like no one knew that I was really sad about it because I was really positive. And that was my strength, actually. I was just really resilient. And, on day 30 or, the final day, I was as happy or as strong or even happier and stronger than I was on day one, even though I could have been last. All we knew, I could have been last because I was getting no recognition. But I knew that I was doing really well because I knew that people were viewing me in a positive way. And in my interview, for example, the closed door interview, I had people like the judges afterwards come to me and say, wow, that was really outstanding. And I think maybe that there was a shift that week because
interview week.
Yeah, because I got some comments from some judges who were there and they were like, well, we didn't realize that you were so intelligent. So maybe I had gone onto the radar. I don't know what it is, but I felt a shift in that last week. There was that, and then I knew the chaperones were rooting for me because they actually told me after the final. But there were like little signs that I was doing well. It was just not being recognized. And in Mauritius, they were so worried for me. And, I got loads of messages like, we're praying for you. What's happening? People messaging my brother, like, is she okay?
Aww.
So I just had to keep making those stories to reassure Mauritian people.
Because they couldn't hear, they were not hearing from you, or because they couldn't see you placing?
I wasn't very active because you're very busy, like from 6 a.m. to probably midnight, you're doing stuff, and then you have to sleep. You have to wake up early to do your makeup again for the next day, 6 a.m. So you have no time to respond to your messages and be online. But also because, when they're seeing those leaderboards scores, they're not seeing Mauritius, and they knew that they'd sent a strong candidate. So
exactly.
They were really worried. But that's why I remember having to make all these videos because people were like, you need to tell us what's happening. And I kind of felt like I owed Mauritian people an explanation, even though maybe I shouldn't have felt like that. But I just felt like, no, guys, it's fine. Like, and you know what? Even if I didn't place on that final day, I would have been so proud of my efforts because at every step of the way, I did my best. So you can't really have any regrets when you're just doing your best.
I think from my perspective, it's always easier when the success and the achievement is then visible to everyone.
I know.
But I can't imagine what you must have been going through.
It was really
being in that hotel room on your own.
Yeah, it was, it was really tough. And I was in a room with Madagascar, so we would pray every day. It was a testament of faith as well, this experience. Keeping faith until the last minute because you never know when you can have a breakthrough. And I think my journey really showed that. But it was also I was getting some comments, not criticism, not negative criticism, but I'd be getting comments like, oh, have you tried doing your makeup in this way? Maybe it's the makeup, maybe it's the hairstyle. Thank God I came back with a ranking, because if I didn't, I would have had all of these comments probably saying, you didn't look good enough, you didn't do this enough. But because I came back with a top 12, I feel like I didn't get that. So it really helped to have that physical result to prove it, because people don't see the behind the scenes. But I think if they could, they would be really proud of me throughout the entire thing.
Honestly, you know what they say, when you're doubting yourself, someone else is admiring your strength. And that was me watching you. The other impressive thing is that all of you would always come out, and maybe I'm speaking about you, Intikla and Jess. I only literally followed the two of you. But watching you coming out, and I think I said that to you on email, like your makeup was always flawless, like spot on. But I'm sure like behind the scenes, you probably were not getting a lot of sleep and still having to show up perfect and doing like press conferences and what else not.
Yeah, which is why Miss World, I always say this, especially having come out of the Miss World experience, if you want to be a woman of high value, do Miss World. Like, it's empowering. And it's also humbling to be in that space where everyone is outstanding and like so high achieving and the most accomplished and beautiful women of their country. So it does put the pressure on you a little bit to look your best and always be your best. But yeah, like I was doing my makeup myself, my hair myself. I would wake up at like 4 a.m. because I take ages to do my makeup. I'm not those girls that can just like I'm a perfectionist. So my eyeliner has to be even. Like, everything has to be really, my hair has to be perfect. Like, so I was getting up really early, at 4 a.m. and my mum and my dad and anyone who's supporting me like would make sure to call me to make sure I was up, and I'd be running over my script if I had like a public speaking thing coming up or communication round. I was like really, really practicing. I brought my piano, well, it was an electric piano.
Did you bring that with you?
From Mauritius to India and set it up in my room, not only in Delhi, but in Mumbai as well. And I would be practicing. Like I worked really hard.
You were practicing because
There was a talent segment.
That was your talent segment?
Yeah, okay. So I played piano and I sang.
Okay, I have to say I didn't watch this one, so I didn't do my homework.
And I really wish that it had been, because I sang Rêve nous en sept by...
Because I know you did mention what you sung, but I haven't seen it.
I know, but I don't know.
Can we show it maybe as a clip? Do you have it?
I don't have it.
You don't have... Oh, that's a shame. Okay.
It's a shame. And I wish Mauritians could have seen it, because I actually translated half of the lyrics to English, but I left half in Creole.
Right.
And it was like it was really, really meaningful for me. So, yeah.
Well, Liza, we're really, really proud of you.
Thank you.
The Miss Mauritius journey and the Miss World journey, as you said, it has been quite empowering for you.
Yes.
What would be your message to anyone who's thinking of joining the contest, thinking about pageantry in general? Mm-hmm. Because we've seen obviously the positive sides to the pageantry as such. But when it comes to funding, when it comes to the support that you need and being from a small, tiny island, objectively, that must come with some downside.
Yes. So I want to preface this by saying that, Miss World and representing Mauritius at Miss World has been the greatest honor of my life. And I don't regret having done that. And for that reason, I wouldn't necessarily dissuade other young girls who want to do it, because I've grown so much from the journey. I've become a better woman in the least cliche way possible. But there is a lack of transparency, and I would love to shed light on that, because I think it's not spoken about enough. And young girls, me included, but luckily I wasn't so young, you get into something, you think it's going to be an amazing opportunity, and there's actually so much behind the scenes that you need to know. As you mentioned, coming from Mauritius is already a little bit of a handicap in any kind of international competition, in international platform, because we're so small, not many people know about us. And it's exacerbated when you don't have the necessary support. So when you win the title of Miss Mauritius, you get nothing. There's no cash prize, there's no sponsor, there's no traveling.
I thought there was.
No, and a lot of people think there are. And I thought there was as well. Anyone who knows pageantry knows that the pageant girls, we don't do it for money, because, it's not something that is really well paid anyway. You invest a lot. It's more for your community work and for your advocacy and, for having a chance to represent your country. It's not really for the financial gain, at least not in many countries. Obviously, some countries it is. And you get supported a lot financially. But pageantry, usually, anyone who really knows it knows that the girls are not in it for money. But when an organisation has been around for over 50 years, you expect support, whether that's not just money, but, travelling to events, help with your hair and makeup, for example, coaching. I had no coaching from them. I had to have David Stafford. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yes.
He's great. So I reached out to him and he accepted to coach me for free. So I was so grateful because otherwise I would have not known how to catwalk on the international stage.
Wait, I think we've got to take a step back here. So even you, and I mean this with the most objectivity possible, even you as a strong candidate, you didn't have any support.
Nothing.
Knowing that we had the chance to place
Nothing.
highly.
I didn't really care about that, to be honest. I didn't even have support I didn't even have support to fund my Miss World videos. So the videos that you saw, my Beauty with a Purpose and my introduction video, which are two key components. You can't compete at Miss World if you don't submit these videos. I paid from my own money 40,000 rupees to get those done in the final week. So that's for anyone...
People need to know.
Yeah, it's 40,000 rupees. So it's like, what, 800 pounds, 1,000 pounds in the last final week. And luckily, I was able to get sponsorships by myself. So I worked with MAC Cosmetics to get my makeup.
I saw that.
I worked with Clipper. I got some financial sponsorship from them. I worked with Jeta Tulsidas for outfits. Like, I had to knock on doors, Cernol, Espace Maison, for even my project, which is, you can't go to Miss World without a community project. So even for those things, I was like knocking on doors, writing emails, turning up to meetings, having to fulfill all of the content creation post Miss World as well. So after Miss World, I was working for free basically.
Yes, you kept posting about all the different brands who've been involved.
But
I hear
that's
you.
not my job. That shouldn't have been my job to like go and find and try to support myself financially. So for example, for my videos in the final week, I would not have been able to afford that had it not been for my last minute Clipper sponsorship. And thanks to that, I was like not paying my videographer and I was like, I'm going to get the money. I didn't know where the money was going to come from. So I had to like knock on doors and be like, I'm really desperate. I really need money. And I got nothing from my organization. If anything, I mean, me and my family, we had to work really hard to invest into my preparation. And it was like a total of 1 million rupees or
What?
1.5 million rupees. And if you don't have that, I mean, it's not to say
That's like 20,000 pounds sterling.
Yeah.
That could be a deposit for a house.
We could have, exactly. And I'm actually currently renovating my house in Mauritius. And it's so heartbreaking that we've worked and saved for all of these years and it was going into something that it shouldn't have been going into. Of course, we're very proud. My family is very proud of me. They've been amazing. But it was really, really shameful, actually, that in 2024, an organisation does not support its candidate to represent Mauritius on an international platform. So I'm not saying that every contestant's preparation has to be 1 million rupees, 1.5 million rupees. No. But if you factor in the fact that I had to rent a car in Mauritius because I didn't have a means of transportation around the island to film my videos, to attend my community projects, all the things that I was putting on, I was making these events and having to catering for them, transporting the equipment. So I had to pay every time I wanted equipment from Espace Maison, from Duraco, all of these amazing sponsors that I'm really thankful for. But who was paying for all of this? Like, it was me. Even let's forget the money, like mental coaching, mental preparation, communication, catwalk coaching. The very least you offer like an accessory, a pair of shoes. I had to borrow a pair of Chinese laundry platform heels, like pageant heels, from Ornella La Flèche, because I had no pageant heels. And
Ornella is amazing.
She's amazing.
She's really sweet.
I've had a lot of help from amazing people. Like I mentioned, David Stafford for my catwalk training, Fabien Fouzou for my outfits. And these are people that told me outright, they said, we're not going to work with the organisation, but we're going to do it because it's you and we believe in you. Because the organisation does not have a good reputation in Mauritius. So yes, no financial support or support in materials, but it goes beyond that. And that's what's worse, is that it extended to things like attempts of control. It extended to things like belittling me or bullying me or threatening me that I wouldn't be able to go to the competition if I didn't do X, Y, and Z. I was getting threats that I wouldn't go to Miss World in the week leading up to Miss World.
Why?
I didn't have my plane ticket to send to the Miss World organisation, who was asking me, hey, when are you arriving? Because we need to send these chaperones to come and pick you up from the airport. I didn't have a plane ticket. I think I was supposed to fly out on Saturday, and I didn't have it until Friday night.
But why?
Because they just didn't want to support me. And they were really, I think there was a lack of transparency from the beginning, because of course, if I knew something like that from the beginning, or my family knew something like that from the beginning, we probably wouldn't have done it. But we were met with false promises of, okay, we're going to take care of your evening gown and your national costume. Like, there were things they had promised. But I found myself having to beg for meetings to discuss what to do. And when my mum would come with me to some meetings, because, you know, sometimes it would be like, it's getting out of hand now, they're not really doing anything. And one time we had like an altercation, like not a physical altercation, but there was a point of conflict because my mum just asked, you know, when can we expect this? And they just didn't like any questions. I was threatened to be dethroned when I sent an email to ask how they could support me. This was, I think, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it was 2022. I think at the beginning of 2023. And I just sent an email like, hey, it's been so and so months. I really need some help for Miss World. Like, anyone who knows me knows I'm a very diplomatic person. I'm not a dramatic person. I'm not going to go and like look for a fight.
Sure.
So I was asking for these things.
As you should.
As I should, as I deserve to. But every time I did, I was made to feel like I had done something really wrong. So actually one time after this said email, I've sent a few emails, but after this one, an insider from the organization invited me and my mum out for lunch and basically told us, like, look, the organization is thinking of sending this information to the Miss World organization to tell them that you're not a good candidate and they need to get rid of you. And do you know what the information was? It was like pictures they'd found on my friend's Instagram pages of like us out. Like, there was no like indecent images or anything. There was one from 2019. I went to Afro Nation. I was in a bikini on the beach, which is it's a beach festival for anyone who doesn't know. And this is like 3 years before my reign anyway, so it shouldn't really matter. But they went like.
But also, doesn't Miss World has?
It didn't this year.
It didn't.
It is also 2024, and a girl shouldn't be made to feel this way and shouldn't be controlled in this way and silenced in this way. I wasn't allowed to work with any brands. I wasn't allowed to attend these like influencer events, which would have helped me with my exposure and, you know, getting collaborations for Miss World. I wasn't allowed. And one time even I attended my friend's breast cancer awareness event, and I posted a picture that I went because, I mean, one, in support of breast cancer, but two, that's what a miss should be doing. I was threatened and I was told to delete the pictures, and to this day I never delete. I was also very steadfast in my beliefs. Like, that's something that I'm really proud about.
Of course.
I was terrified. Like, I would be crying, I'd be having a breakdown. The week leading up to Miss World, being told several times, if you don't do this, you're not going to go to Miss World. Like, that's horrible after 2.5 years of preparation. But I always remained like steadfast in my beliefs, and I always kind of stood my ground, and I didn't delete the pictures. And I just got like shouted at to the point that my mum had to take the phone that I was being shouted at through to like stick up for me. And from this day, the person who was shouting at me just removed herself from my entire journey. And this is not just my mum. Like, one time I hosted an event for my charity project, which is like one of my greatest achievements from this whole thing, and I ran by myself. I went to an event, I hosted an event, and I invited the Mauritian press, and I invited NBC. And actually I have a message from the lady who came, the journalist who came, saying, are you okay? Because the way that she was talking to you was absolutely not right. And do you want me to take this further and report it to your organization? And I had to say to her, look, unfortunately, this is the organization, and this is how they treat me, and this is how they talk to me. And there's nothing you can really do about it. But again, like, I've kept all of the like receipts because in case they say that I didn't say that, or I'm lying.
You've got them.
I've got them. But it's a shame. And it's a shame that in 2024, a girl who is educated, a girl who has accomplished so many other things before becoming a miss, is facing this like nonsense in her organization just because she is asking for what she thinks is right. And I wasn't never asking them for money, and I would work often without being paid. One time I did some ads for the Ministry of Energy.
Okay.
And I was on set with everyone, and I was asking, like, shout out Roman, because he was my other, there were two leads, and I was the lead female and he was the lead man. And I just said like, hey, are you getting paid for this? And they were like, of course, because we wouldn't be here if we weren't getting paid for it, because we were waking up at like 6 a.m. every day for a week to go and shoot these ads, and we'd work for the entire day.
And you were doing it for free.
And I was doing it for free. And it took months and months and months of me emailing to be like, hey, just please, I'm just double checking, like, I should have been remunerated for this. And after months of asking, they were like, oh yeah, we've managed to get you paid. But the payment, the check, didn't come from the employer of the Ministry of Energy or whoever. It came from the office, the Miss Mauritius office. Where did the money come from? Where did it go for it to come from the Miss Mauritius office to pay me for a job that wasn't even with you? So it's like a lot of these kinds of things. I will say I got 10,000 rupees on my way to the airport along with my ticket. So on the day that I had to travel is when I got my ticket and my 10,000 rupees. But I have to say, because it's not like, I don't want to say I got nothing.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
We gave you 10,000 rupees.
But it's like, imagine
I
on the
got
day you were
10,000
traveling.
rupees, but like for a 3-4 week trip in India, which already is a little bit like, is not really enough, you know? And like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, but also for everything else, I never got compensated for it. And I just did everything. I was working, thankfully, for Oxford, my old university at the time, freelance. And that's how I was able to like sustain myself and my family support. And again, all of these amazing sponsors. And it was a really hard experience, but it was also a beautiful experience to see like who shows up for you. And a lot of local, like good Mauritian people did. And that's my biggest gift.
You know, this is why I love doing this podcast, because I feel like we need to hear it. Like we need to hear experiences from people like yourself so other people know. And equally, you taking the time to thank the actual Mauritians who are behind you. But I have to say, I'm pretty surprised. I'm pretty shocked by some of the experiences and anecdotes that you've shared, and even some of the revelations. It's quite shocking.
It is shocking, and it shouldn't happen. And throughout my entire reign, I said, I'm not the first, because I was in talks with previous Miss Mauritius. But yeah, it's really shocking. And I always said I want to be the last, because I don't want another girl to go through this. Unfortunately, I don't know, I crowned my successor before going to Miss World. But if Miss World had happened before, it wouldn't have been that way around. But if Miss World had happened before and then I had to crown my successor, I always said I wouldn't be present, because I just feel so bad giving that title and that job to somebody else. And it's a shame, because it should be a beautiful experience, but actually it had a big impact on my mental health. Like, I was really unhappy for those years. Actually, they were like the toughest. I always say I've done a lot of hard things in my life. Like, I have, you know, my degrees and everything, and I've done like loads of work experiences, and I've gone through a lot, but that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Now I'm way more resilient than ever, but it was really, really mentally really difficult, because not only are you facing all these like critical things from your organization, the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who are not, are the ones who are actually criticizing you for like every move that you're making, just everything, but also not helping you. Like, criticism. So it's not even like constructive criticism. So you're having to deal with that, and then also being like, wait a second, I'm a double degree holder and I have so much potential. I have so much potential in my life. I've done so many things. And yet I'm doing this, and yet I'm being treated this way, and yet I can't even speak out, because, and even though I'm an opinionated and, you know, outspoken person, I always speak out for what's right. And to feel like that for like 2.5 years is really tough. It really impacted my mental health. And again, I say I'm really grateful that I was the age that I was dealing with it, because if I was 18, like many of the girls are, you know, 18, 19, they don't know themselves yet. They're not confident enough yet. That is pretty shattering to, like, you know, your identity and the way that you think you can speak out.
Who do you turn to, right?
You have no one to turn to, and they make it so that you are singled out, in the sense that my mum wasn't really allowed to come to the meetings, and I'd have to like force her in, or like not physically, but like I have to be like, no, my mum wants to be here. And after a while, she just wasn't allowed. Like they don't want your family to be involved. They don't want anyone to be involved. And I would have loads of criticism, like, you know, you're a grown girl. You should live without your mum. And it's like, I've lived without my parents since I was 18. This is not the issue here. The issue is that you don't want me to have support, because you know that if I have somebody else with me or other people witnessing this, you're going to look like the bad guy.
I think we cannot wrap up this conversation without me asking, what was the reaction from the organisation after you did placed among the top 12 at Miss World?
So actually, a member of my organisation did attend the Miss World final, and it was to bring the delegation of Miss World to Mauritius. the day after or something. So that's actually why she came.
Were you aware of this?
She didn't come for me. No. And it was so embarrassing. And I think Jess mentioned this in the podcast with you, that like people were asking me about it and I had no idea. And I felt bad because I felt like it was giving like Nepo baby. It was giving like that kind of thing. But I was like, I wish I knew what this was about, but I haven't been told. And I wasn't even supposed to be on the flight with them. So
she said that on the podcast.
Yeah, she said that. I was supposed to be on a different flight. And thank God someone like at the previous Miss World dropped out. So I took their place on this trip. But imagine like if they hadn't, I would have been going back to my country. They're coming to my country with me. Jess is asking me, hey, what's your flight? Like, do you know? And I just have no idea. So I had no idea about it. And actually how they reacted. So the day before the final, my mum and my dad were with me at dinner. And really, like, if I'm shouting out anyone today, it's my mum and my dad and my brother, because they were my pillar throughout this entire thing. And we're sitting at dinner with a member of my organization who I didn't even know was present. And someone was saying, like, someone is looking for you. In that moment, that's when I found out that they had come. So, like, no one had messaged me to say, hey, this person is coming, or hey, I'm coming. Like, no one. So I find out at dinner. I was really shocked. And I was sitting at dinner with my parents and this member of the organization. And my mum said, hey, don't you think the fact that like this Mauritius trip is happening tomorrow could kind of like have, you know, not ruin the chances, but like, you know, impact on Liza's results, because then, you know, it's got something to do with her country. So they might not want to place her highly because it might look bad, right? My mum just said something like that. And my dad also had the same concern, because we were like, oh, we didn't know this was happening. We didn't plan this to happen. Now it looks like I'm in on it and I'm just not. Like, I have no idea. I haven't been placed in the entire competition. I don't know what's going on. And she said, and my parents held back their tongue because it was the day before the final. And like, you know, my mental state is like the priority right now. And the member of the organization said, what do you mean is going to impact her chances? The girl hasn't won anything. She's like really tearing into me, like, what chances? What chances? Like that at the table. I'm pretty sure other people were there as well. So if they recall, maybe they can tell me. And we were really shocked. And it's really hard to hear something like that the day before the final. And then I win the top 12 and she's like, you see, I told you could do it. And it's like, no, yesterday you told me that I had no chances because I hadn't won anything. And the day before she was like, I don't like it when you have your hair like that. You've been having your hair. Like, it was always criticisms. Like, I don't like this that you've worn. I don't like this because I slipped for the national costume round. You see, you slipped. You don't know how to walk. Your hair isn't good. And I had my hair in the exact same way that she told me not to have my hair. And I made top 12. You know what I mean? Like, and my final dress, my organization had no idea what it was. They had no idea what to expect with any of my outfits. And like, they were discovering my look as everyone
at the same
else
time
was
as everyone else.
So it's like, that's testament to the fact that they had no input. They didn't know about any of my sponsorships, and I kept them really quiet because I was scared that if they found out, they wouldn't send me. And it was only after, as you mentioned, when you noticed me thanking everyone, it was only after that we could do that, because I didn't have this fear of like not going to Miss World anymore. And I was free. And I heard comments about the fact that I was really ungrateful, but I wasn't. I was so grateful to so many people that helped me. I was just ungrateful to them, but that's because, I have nothing to thank them for. And we had this trip with the Miss World organization, which was amazing. I have to say, it was really, really incredible. And after that trip, Gemma, I didn't hear from them ever again. Not even an invite to the house to like congratulate me on my ranking. Not any kind of like press opportunities. All of those I had to find by myself. I didn't hear from them ever again. So it's like, if you really cared as a human being, as a girl, as a person, I haven't done anything bad towards you. If anything, the only thing I haven't thanked you, but I haven't done anything negative towards you. I hadn't even voiced out. This is the first time I'm doing it. So it's like, if you really cared for me as the girl that you have under your wing, the one that is your current miss and that you're sending to represent the country, as they pretend, to care about these girls, at least a message after the trip. It goes to show that there was actually never any care there.
You know, when the delegation from Miss World, the finalists, came to Mauritius, you spoke very highly of Mauritius. Overseas, it sounded like everything was fine. There was no ice there. The natural question you might have from people viewing this would be, why speak about it now?
That's a good question as well. And other people might ask, why did you not leave? Like, why did you stick with it for all of this time, only now to be voicing out about it? But it's like, by the time that me and my family realized what was going on, that it was all a facade, that we weren't going to be receiving these things like the dress or the support or anything that they had told us we would. They even told me I would have a nutritionist, like a personal trainer. It was too late. I had already invested way too much time, way too much money, way too much energy. Like, I left my life in the UK. I came out of a master's at Oxford to do this. Like, I sacrificed so much. I had a job in London and I had to let it go because I couldn't do the job and the Miss Mauritius experience, and I had my freelance job at Oxford. I just couldn't do it. So I sacrificed way too much, you know, like personal relationships, my life here in the UK. And I was like, I can't not do this final step. And why I didn't voice out earlier was because I planned to voice out earlier, because I didn't know the Miss World delegation was going to come to Mauritius. And again, everything that I've done in this entire journey was to do my country proud. And that's why I went to the end as well, because I knew I could do something that would make them really proud. And, you know, to save face of my country, it's not the time to voice out when Miss World is in Mauritius. I didn't want to portray my country badly, and I was looking out for the reputation of my country. I was like, no, I'm going to speak really highly of Mauritius because it's my chance to do so, and I love this country. So that's why I didn't do it straight after. I would have if the Miss World organization didn't come. But as they came, you know, I'm not a mean person towards like Mauritius.
Right.
I just thought what was right in that moment was to be really patriotic. It was also Independence Day. You know, there was so many things going on. It wasn't the moment.
Look, Liza, you've been classy throughout the whole thing, and you've held your head high, and you've made us really, really proud. So I will take the time on behalf of so many Mauritians watching you to say thank you for making our country proud. Maybe last question, and given the time constraint that we have as well, I would have loved to chat to you even for longer. But what's next?
I was doing my project in Mauritius as well, which I didn't get to speak about, but holds a very, very special
What is it called?
Nulla Terre, Nulla Force. And it's a community project in Sainte-Croix, which empowers women to become self-sustainable. And it's a project that I hold very dearly in my heart, and something that I want to continue to do in Mauritius. Unfortunately, I'm not there physically anymore, but I go back like quite often. And I kind of want to continue with like women's empowerment initiatives. But what's next in my personal life is just to have a stable life. We all just speak about it as if it was this crazy thing, and it was this crazy thing. And it's great, but like all you want after that is to not have this pressure. And especially in my case, I'm not saying in the Miss World case, Miss World was incredible. Nothing, rien à dire, as we say in Mauritius, about the Miss World experience. But it will be nice to not have this pressure, not this control, not these like obligations. And just focus on having a very, very stable life. I keep joking to all my friends and I'm saying like, oh guys, I'm so glad that I finally have a boring 9 to 5. And I do. I work from home in the golf industry. And I love it. I mean, it's just working from home. It's just the regular life, but that's all I've ever wanted. So I can't complain.
Well, Liza, we love having strong, powerful women on this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. We can leave the different links to your projects and for people to follow up. But thank you so much for coming on. Loved chatting to you. And I really appreciate you sharing some of your experiences, which will help other people to form a decision about whether they want to be part of the journey or not.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the space to have been able to do so. This is my first time, and as I said to you, it's really hard to do stuff like this when you don't feel comfortable, and so this is because I feel comfortable on your platform, so thank you.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Thanks, Liza. Hi everyone, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Gemma. Alongside my full-time job, I host a podcast and I also create finance and self-development contents on this channel. If you like the content so far, please consider subscribing. There is a new video out every week, and I hope to see you in the next ones as well.